Sarah Chen stood at the window of her cramped New York apartment, watching the sun rise over Manhattan's skyline. The morning light caught the dragon pendant around her neck, a gift from her grandmother before she left Shanghai. 10 years had passed since that tearful goodbye at Pudong International Airport, but the weight of her family's sacrifices still pressed heavily on her shoulders. Her phone buzzed with a message from her mother. "Did you eat breakfast? Don't skip meals like in business school." Sarah smiled, remembering the care packages of dried seaweed and red bean cakes that had sustained her through those grueling Columbia MBA years. Her mother had sold her beloved jade collection to help pay for Sarah's education, piece by piece, never telling her until after graduation. "I'm fine, Ma," she typed back. "Meeting with investors today." The response came quickly. "Make us proud, daughter." Sarah's fingers traced the dragon pendant. Pride. It had driven every decision in her life, from the endless hours studying for the GMAT to the sleepless nights preparing business cases. She remembered Professor Williams's words during her first week at Columbia. "Look around. Half of you won't make it through this program." Sarah had gripped her pencil tighter, thinking of her father working double shifts at the restaurant in Shanghai, of her mother's jade pieces disappearing one by one. She walked to her closet, pushing aside the clearance rack suits to reach for the one designer outfit she owned, a black Burberry she'd bought with her first bonus from Goldman Sachs. The fabric felt like armor against her skin. She needed that protection today. The subway ride downtown was packed with the usual morning crowd, but Sarah barely noticed. Her mind was back in the Columbia Library, 3 years ago, when the idea first struck her. She'd been researching supply chain management, comparing Asian and Western business models when she saw the gap in the market. Why wasn't anyone connecting small Chinese manufacturers directly with American retailers? The idea consumed her, becoming the focus of her thesis and eventually her obsession. "You're crazy," her roommate Lisa had said. "You're turning down Goldman for a startup? Do you know how many people would kill for that offer?" Sarah did know. She also knew that Goldman wasn't her dream. It was just a safer path. The same path many of her classmates chose, trading their ambitions for security. But Sarah couldn't do it. Not after everything her family had given up. The elevator doors opened onto the 31st floor of a gleaming office tower. Sarah straightened her jacket and walked into the conference room where 3 venture capitalists waited. Their suits cost more than her entire wardrobe, their watches worth more than her annual rent. "Miss Chen," the oldest one said, not bothering to stand, "tell us about Red Dragon Supply Chain Solutions." Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her grandmother's pendant against her chest. She thought of her mother's jade collection, of her father's calloused hands, of all the late nights in the Columbia Library. This wasn't just her dream, it was her family's redemption. "Red Dragon," she began, her voice steady, "is going to revolutionize how American companies source products from China." The youngest VC leaned forward. "Bold claim, what makes you so sure?" Sarah smiled, thinking of her grandmother's words. "The dragon fears nothing, not even the storm." She opened her laptop and pulled up her presentation. "Because I understand both worlds," she said. "I've lived them. Let me show you how we're going to bridge them." For the next hour, Sarah laid out her vision. She showed them the proprietary software she'd developed, the network of manufacturers she'd already secured in Shanghai, the letters of intent from American retailers. With each slide, she could see their skepticism turning to interest. "Your technology is impressive," the oldest VC said finally. "But this is a relationship business. How can you, he paused, choosing his words carefully, as a young woman, navigate the traditional business culture in China?" Sarah had been waiting for this question. She pulled up a photo on her laptop, a family dinner in Shanghai, taken just before she left for America. Her father stood proud in his chef's whites, her mother elegant in her chapao, her grandmother beaming in the center. "See my grandmother?" Sarah pointed. "She built a textile empire during the Cultural Revolution when women weren't supposed to run businesses. She taught me that respect isn't given, it's earned. Those manufacturers you're worried about, they're not just contacts. They're people I grew up with, people who knew my grandmother, who watched me grow up. In China, that matters more than any business card. The VCs exchanged glances. The youngest one nodded slightly. We've seen a lot of pitches about bridging East and West, the oldest one said. Most of them miss the cultural nuances, but you, he paused, studying her. You might actually be able to pull this off. Sarah felt her heart race, but kept her expression calm. I'm not trying to bridge East and West, she said. I'm trying to create something new, something that honors both traditions while building something better. The meeting ran over by 30 minutes. When Sarah finally left the building, her hands were shaking slightly. She pulled out her phone and saw 3 missed calls from her mother. Taking a deep breath, she dialed. Ma? They're interested. They want to see more numbers. But, she switched to Mandarin, her voice softening. I think this might actually happen. Her mother's happy cry made Sarah's eyes sting with tears. She could hear her father in the background, asking questions rapidly in Shanghai dialect. Your grandmother would be so proud, her mother said. She always said you had the heart of a dragon. Sarah touched the pendant, feeling its familiar contours. Tell Ba I'll call him tonight. I have another meeting to prepare for. As she hung up, Sarah looked up at the towering buildings around her. Somewhere in one of them, her office would soon exist. Red Dragon Supply Chain Solutions would become real, not just a dream in a Columbia classroom or a pitch deck on her laptop. The morning sun caught her pendant, sending red reflections dancing across her suit. Sarah smiled, thinking of her grandmother's words. The dragon fears nothing, not even the storm.